Start transmission. 4, 3, 2, 1. Broadcasting to you live from the Static Clan compound, you are now listening to the Jaysin Static Experience, a podcast from an award-winning nobody, noted raconteur, Renaissance man, a man with a sailor's mouth, but he has never sailed, and who likes to talk about a cornucopia of topics. This podcast is brought to you by www.jaysonstatic.com, a place filled with all your pop culture, antiques, and collectible needs. And now your host, the one and only Jaysin Static. Welcome back, everybody. Jaysin Static with another motherfucking episode of the Jaysin Static Experience. And today I have a guest for you. And some might say he's a little bit fiery. And we'll get into why he might be a little bit fiery here in a little bit when we start talking about some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about. But other than that, welcome back, everybody. It's been a week. I took a week off to get some stuff situated out, and we're back at it again, just like we normally do. But today's guest, Pierce Werner, he's a sideshow performer, fire breather, and does all kinds of other cool and interesting acts. I've actually been a big fan of this style of performance art for a very long time, so it's interesting to have him on. I got hooked up with him through another one of my friends who you've previously heard on the podcast, Destiny Marr. I got to give her a shout out, or she's going to complain and whine about this. But there you go, Destiny. There's your shout out. Go check her art stuff out at Deadsy Deviations on Facebook, and go check out all my cool stuff. And welcome to the show, Pierce. What's up, my man?
Hey, how you doing, Jaysin? Glad to be here.
Good, man. So I just said, I only met you, maybe 2 weeks ago? A couple weeks ago?
Yeah,
maybe
week
a month
or two.
ago?
Maybe.
Through Destiny. So since you're new to my platform and, I'm new to you and everything like that, just give me like a very brief primer on what it is that you do, and we'll flush out, what all that other stuff is, as we go out through the rest of the podcast.
All right, cool. Well, I'm a sideshow performer, and I honestly feel that it's what I was born to do. And what I do is basically everything that they told you not to try at home. Obviously, they told me not to try it at home, but I was never much of a good listener. And one thing I like to do is I try to put a spin on old acts. Like I'll try to add different elements into the fire breathing. Like I do this one thing where I do the human blockhead with the torch in my nose, and I'll breathe fire off of it. Mm-hmm. I got a couple other cool things in the works. But yeah, that's basically it. I like to put my life in danger for the entertainment of others.
So what actually got you? We was talking briefly a second ago. You said you've been doing this for 20 years. What got you into that? Like, what was it that was just like, I'm going to start, breathing fire. I'm going to pour this, fuel in my mouth and hope I don't catch it on fire.
Well, it all started a few years before that. There was an episode of The X-Files called Humbug, and it had well-known sideshow performers, The Enigma and Jim Rose, on it.
Yep.
And I was watching this episode with my dad at the time, and I was like, hey, is this real? Is this real? Like, is this something that I can go out and do in the real world? And he's like, no, it's all fake. And I just looked at him, I said, I'm going to make it real. Yeah. So right then and there, I think I was about 8 years old at the time, but I knew that was what I wanted to do with my life. Right. And then the fire breathing itself, actually, I saw it in a music video. I want to say it was Everything Sucks by Dope. And I was just like, I have to do this. It just looks so cool to me. So, and then I'm a big procrastinator. So when I say I want to do something, I'll do it. But, when is a whole nother thing. It was probably a couple years after I first saw that. I just picked up a jug of lighter fluid, put some in my mouth, and spit it into a lighter. And
right.
been doing it ever since. And
I think that's where it all started out. Cause I used to do that, lighter fluid,
yeah,
shoot some lighter fluid in a cup, drink it out of the cup.
Yeah.
And then just, I think if you have that it's almost like you got to have a certain type of spirit to do, to do that type of stuff, whether it be, say what you do, performance art, or, like some type of martial art fighting, or you've got to have that, I guess you could say almost kind of like a crazy gene, because most normal people's not going to put lighter fluid in their mouth and try to blow fire out of their mouth, or, eat razor blades or anything like that. And most normal people's not going to try to do that. So you got to have a little bit of a crazy, I call it the crazy gene. You got to have a little bit of that crazy gene in you to actually want to go out and do stuff that actually puts your body at risk.
With some of the stuff I do, I wouldn't disagree with you on that one. For me, the way I've always seen it is there's an old Buddhist saying, everything you want lies on the other side of fear. Yeah. So, you just got to go into it without fear, like accept the fact that, okay, something really bad could happen, or I could entertain a shitload of people.
Yeah.
And so that's the way I always try to look at it, because when you get down to it, I love what I do. I love the uniquity behind it, but I really love the ability of being able to perform it for people and giving them that enjoyment that comes out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that goes back to what I was saying, where you're talking about the fear aspect, like that goes back into that crazy gene, because, like that, it's almost like you don't have that in you. You have it, and it might be there just a little bit, but you just kind of overlook it, and you're like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it anyways because I want to entertain people. That's kind of the mindset. That's the mindset of a pro wrestler. Like, I could try to do this double backflip off this top rope. It's gonna be dangerous, but fuck it, it's gonna look cool. I'm gonna go ahead and try it. that was my first. I remember. Quick story. I remember my first time doing a moonsault in wrestling, and I was at the training gym, and I was asked one of the older guys, and I was like, "Hey man, how do you do a moonsault?" I go, I want to practice moonsaults so I can, do them in matches and stuff like that. And he's like, oh, and this guy's a big guy, like big heavy set guy. And I was like, have you ever done them? I was like, or I asked him, I go, have you ever done them? He's like, nah. He's like, I did one maybe once or twice when I was younger and a little bit and about 100 pounds heavy or lighter. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, well, how you doing? He was like, I'll teach you how to do them. And I was like, okay, how are you going to teach me? You've only done a couple of them. He's like, it's just like everything else that you're going to learn when you do this. When you're in this business, you just got to go out and try it. So he goes, climb your ass up on that top rope, stand up there backwards. When you get your footing and your balance, flip off backwards. That's all you got to do.
And it makes it sound so easy.
Yeah. And it was that aspect. It was scary getting up there at first, but then when I got up there and I did exactly what he said, and I stood up, and he goes, when you stand up, just get your footing, make sure you're comfortable up there, and then just flip backwards. And I stood up there. I was nervous when I got up there. The fear wasn't there, but it was just nervousness. Because I was like, man, I don't want to fuck this up and break my neck or my leg or some shit like that. Yeah. But as soon as I got up there and the rope started, stopped rocking, and it was like a minute of calm, like a second of calmness. And I was just like, okay, cool. Flip. and that's really that's all she wrote. Like it wasn't there. I just went up and did it. And then after that, I was running the top rope out to the middle of the rope, doing flips off of it and shit like that. In a matter of a month, I was just like, okay, let's do this. Let's get crazy.
That's a good way to look at it. It's like, hey, I've done this. Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah. Is that kind of how it goes for you and what you did? What did you start out doing? Like, what was the very first thing that you actually started doing? Like, what was that first trick that you did?
Well, this is going way back before I even thought of being a sideshow artist. When I was a kid, I just started walking on my hands because I wanted to.
Right.
And it grew from there. Probably the first thing I ever did was human pincushion. Like, I'd let people staple dollar bills and stuff to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like 13 or 14. And then when I was 15 was when I first started breathing fire. And I never really wanted to just be a one-trick pony. Like honestly, fire performers, like, if you can play with fire, like, you know what you're doing, you're set in that. But I was just never content with only doing that. So after that, I started doing, well, actually, along the way, got my paths crossed with Bizarro, the optical illusionist.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a big name now out in Vegas, building escape rooms, traveling all over the world. But, he introduced me to more stuff like walking on broken glass, bed of nails. And, every couple of years I try to add something new. My newest thing that I added into the repertoire is tying razor blades together in my mouth with floss. So I'm excited to finally, when all this is over and festivals can start up again, I can start performing that.
How long do you practice a trick before you actually try to perform it in front of an audience?
There have been times where I didn't practice at all, like with what I was mentioning earlier about doing the blockhead with a torch and breathing fire off of it. That was when I did a couple weeks on the road, and that's where I started just doing the blockhead with the torch. I wasn't breathing fire off of it. Mm-hmm. And I had a show with my buddies crew in New York, and I told him how I wanted to do this, and he's like, have you ever tried it? And I was like, no. And he's like, well, practice it right now to make sure you can do it, because that would look really cool. So I did, and it worked out. And so, but other things like with the razor blades, that's not something you can just go out and do in front of a crowd. So I picked up an instructional video, and I watched that a couple of times. I practiced it, and I got it down. So it varies with how long it'll take to do certain things. Like, there's some things I can just pick them up like that. Like straight jacket, I practiced that for like nonstop for a couple hours, and I had it. The straight jacket escape. Whereas other things, they can take more time. It really all just depends on how much you're willing to put into it, how long it's going to take.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how long did it take you to flesh out that the razor blade thing?
Took a few attempts. Like really, it's still in the beginning stages. Like, I'm able to do it now. for the show. I got to choreograph it out to a song and everything.
Right.
So I guess you could say it's still in progress, but it took me a couple of days at first to like really get a flow down for it and make it look good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What is for all those who might be wondering, what is the blockhead?
A blockhead, basically I'll take a nail or a power drill or just something that you're not supposed to hammer into your nose, and I'll hammer it into my nose. And that's really all there is to it. The blockhead thing.
Yeah. So how long did it how long did you I think you actually just said that a second ago. You only did that once before you actually did it in front of a show?
The fire breathing?
No, the blockhead thing.
Oh, I started doing blockhead a few years before that, just with nails and just with nails and a hammer and nail. And then while I was out, I my torch that I had for my fire breathing, I just looked at it and I was like, I could probably fit this up my nose. So I tried it and I did it while it was on fire. It was cool.
So when you do the blockhead with your torch, you actually take the torch and put it in your nose. Is that what you mean?
No, the torch handle, yes. The torch itself is up. But yeah.
Right.
I do hold it with my nose.
Cool. So you said that you were on you went around like with a crew?
Uh-huh.
What was that crew's name? I mean, if you want to talk about that, we're cool. But if you don't want to,
we can talk about it because like it was all a learning experience that brought me to where I am. Yeah. I was with a few crews. The original crew I was with was called Mutated Souls Effects out of Berks County, Pennsylvania. And we got looked at by a traveling show once called the Traveling Sideshow Circus. It was some complicated name that was very redundant. And basically what they were doing was they were just trying to pull me onto the show, but they had to pull the rest of them on. And then they just told them at the end of the one cycle, they were like, look, he's coming with us, but you guys, not so much.
Right.
But so I stuck with that for a couple of weeks, but it ended up turning into something that it wasn't for me. It wasn't how I pictured my life as a performer or entertainer. And so I left that and went back to the crew in Berks County. And there just wasn't enough motivation in that crew, is what it came down to. The person who was running it, he was a big believer in The Secret. And when I say he believed, are you familiar with the quote-unquote Secret?
I've heard about it. I don't think I ever looked into it.
Yeah,
I've heard people talk about it, but I mean, one of those things that's never. Yeah.
He swore by it, and it's basically about the law of attraction. That if you will it, it'll happen.
Yeah.
Which, when you get down to it, that's just wishful thinking. Because if you have talents that you want to share with the world, but you're not actually going out there and making a name for yourself out there, it's not going to happen. You can't just sit at home and say, okay, this is how I want my life to be, and I'm going to keep thinking about it, and 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be in Hollywood. It doesn't work out like that. but
it doesn't work like that. You actually gotta, with that will, you actually gotta go out and do it too. Like you can't just sit around and. I'm a believer in that aspect of like if you want something, go out and get it and go out and do it. I remember growing up. One thing that I always wanted to do and be was a professional wrestler. I always wanted to be a professional wrestler since I was a little bitty kid when I first seen it. And I remember all through high school, I was talking about, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a pro wrestler. I'm gonna do this. You can't do that. You're too short. You're too small. You're never gonna be able to do this. You're never gonna be able to do that. So I waited around, early 20s, and I waited to my mid 20s. And then I finally, I ran into somebody because I actually I started working at a place, and one of the guys there was a pro wrestler. And then he introduced me, to, I would go up and watch him wrestle and everything like that. So I became friends with a lot of the indie wrestlers in the area and everything like that. And then one day we were at work, and my buddy, and he was all like, you know what? He's like, motherfucker, I'm tired. I'm tired of you sitting there saying that you're going to do this. But all you do is sit around talking, man. All you do is sit around talking. Your little punk ass ain't ever going to get in that ring just because you're a punk ass. And I'm just like, man, like, you know what? Fuck you. I'm going. Let's go down there right now. Let's go. Like, yeah. I'm going. Like you're calling me out, so I'm going now.
This
is
happening.
It's happening now, and so like I was just like, and that's what it literally took. Somebody calling me out, somebody that I highly respected, and that I cared about. Like he was my buddy, like. It took him to call me out and to literally be in my face, calling me out, calling me a punk ass bitch and shit like that. And I was just like, man, you know what? Fuck it. I got to do it. I can't say that I'm going to do it now and not do it. So like I went down there, and even when I got there, when I got to the training, there was like, I almost want to say there were maybe 9 or 10 people in my class. And I think it was me and one other person that ended up graduating out of that class. None of the people that trained me thought I was ever going to make it. And they beat the crap out of me to try to get me to quit. And I didn't quit. And I was there day and night, every single day. I was the first one at the building, the last one to leave. Like they could not stop me at all. And so like, when you're talking about will, like you've actually got to go out and, willpower. You can't just will something into existence without actually going out and fighting for it.
Yeah.
So you were talking about you mentioned Jim Rose and the Enigma. Mm-hmm. And was that back when they were, what was it? They had a TV, was that the TV show that they had a TV show too, didn't they?
I don't know that they had a TV show. I just remember the episode of the X-Files that they were on.
Because I remember when I was younger, maybe I was maybe in my late teens, early 20s. This is right around 2000, and I remember I could have swore they had a TV show, something like Freak Show. What was it called? Freak Show maybe, or something like that.
That wasn't Jim Rose. That wasn't the Jim Rose circus. That was the Venice Beach Sideshow, I believe you're thinking of.
Maybe that's what it is. Because I remember seeing Jim Rose and the Enigma all over TV, like in my early 20s. I remember seeing him. I don't remember why. I just remember seeing him everywhere. And that was like when internet started getting big, and like I said, I was a weird kid, so that stuff. This stuff always interested me. So like, it's not something that I ever wanted to do. It was just stuff that interested me because I was always into like magicians and circus acts and stuff like that. Like like Houdini and some of those guys back in the day. Like I was always interested in those types of, like almost like old vaudeville type characters.
Yeah. It's funny you mention that because speaking of Houdini and the vaudeville acts, because I never met my biological father until I was 26 years old, and as it turns out, my great or maybe not great, but like great uncles or aunts, but they actually used to perform and open up for Houdini. The Thayer family, they were acrobats. So like when I found that out, I was like, yeah, this is in my blood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an interesting, like, yeah, I was a big fan of Buster Keaton growing up. I don't know why. It was just Buster Keaton, you know, the old slapstick comedy type stuff, like a silent movie guy. Like, I don't know what it was. It was just something about his act. Like, he was like way ahead of his time and stuff that he was doing, even like movie production and stuff like that. And he was actually doing like stunts and stuff where like he was falling off of buildings and stuff like that. Like in like the early 1900s, he was doing that type of stuff. And I was like, man, like that's crazy. Like I remember what was it? That one where he actually screwed up. I can't remember the actual act or the stunt that he did, but he was supposed to have, I think, jumped off a building or some crap like that, and he landed on like a canopy or some crap like that, and he was supposed to have bounced off of it and slid through it and stuff like that, but it screwed up, and they were just like, this is a one take thing, so like, you know, they just kept it in there, like, and it's one of his most iconic stunts that he did, you know, and it was actually something that he fucked up. But like, have you ever had something where, you know, like you just completely fuck it up?
Yes, I did, and I knew it was going to happen. I was about 19 years old, and back then I was by no means where I am now. I was just like kind of going around breathing fireballs here and there just for a little bit of enjoyment. Now, a buddy of mine, he would sell pictures of NASCAR drivers at NASCAR races, and we would always camp out the night before, and I'd walk around, see people playing with their campfires and stuff, and be like, hey, you want to see some fire breathing? Oh, yeah. All right, let me just get some of your lighter fluid. So that was the case that was going on this particular night. I saw some people playing with fire. Went over, hey, want to see some fire breathing? I'm like, yeah, sure. So they handed me the can, and it was charcoal lighter fluid. And my exact words were, this is going to make my face explode. And my friend Zach, who was standing a few feet away from me at the time, says, oh, come on, don't be such a pussy. And I was like, oh, well, now you're calling me out. Face explodey or not, I'm doing it. So took a big swig and blew it out. It was this huge fireball, probably like 15 feet long. And then when it's done, what's going on over here with my hand? That's fire. So I started slapping it, because this had never happened to me before. I had never been, you know, professionally trained in what to do if you set your face on fire. And so I'm just standing there, and everyone else is just standing there looking at me. I need some kind of guidance, so I just yell out, somebody tell me what to do. And my friend DJ comes right over, and he's like, stop, drop, and roll. So I got down on my knees, slammed my face in the dirt, and just and put it out. Oh, yeah. And he comes over, and he gets down on his knees, and he's like, are you all right? I'm like, yeah. So he yells up, he's okay. And this entire campground just went wild. Screaming, hooting, hollering, applause.
Have you ever come across any of the, you know, like, you know, the big time, you know, sideshow acts that they got going on today, like, you know, Enigma And Jim Rose in it? Any? I don't. Is he still? Is he still doing his show, Jim Rose?
Jim Rose, I know he's living in France, and he still does things from time to time. He does a lot of seminars, I guess you could call it, where he goes around and he just teaches the tricks of the trade.
Right.
The Enigma, he travels around to all tattoo conventions and stuff like that. I've never met Jim Rose, but I did meet the Enigma by complete chance on the streets of Philadelphia once. It was outside of a Cradle of Filth show, and I see some guy walking up the sidewalk. His face is blue. He has horns. I didn't think anything about it because it's a Cradle of Filth show. Right. My face was painted. Other people's faces were painted. So as he's getting closer, I'm just standing there saying to myself, I know this guy. Who is this? And then, right as he gets out, it clicked. And I go, holy shit, it's the Enigma. And he turns around, looks at me and goes, what's up, dude? And I was like, oh! So he kept walking. And at this point, I'm just like, I got to go shake his hand. So I chased him down and shook his hand. I was like, hey, that episode of the X-Files, that's why I do Sideshow. You're awesome. Total fangirl moment. But it was like I never thought that I would get the chance to meet him in real life. And then by complete chance being in the right place at the right time, I did.
Yeah. It's always fun and interesting to kind of meet heroes. I remember when I met Raven, professional wrestler Raven. I was working for I just happened to, it was something that happened by happenstance. I had a friend who was a big fan of I was a big fan of ICP back in the day when I was wrestling at that time. Yeah. And I had a friend who was friends with I want to say his name was Corporal Punishment, who was one of the guys who wrestled with ICP's organization that they had, the wrestling company that they had, JCW.
Yeah, JCW.
He was friends with him, and they happened to come through my town, and I'm literally brand new in wrestling. I'd probably been wrestling maybe 2 months, brand new. I'd only had 2 matches, so and so my buddy is like, I was talking to him one day and he's like, oh, hey, did you know JCW's in town? I was like, no, I didn't know that. He's like, yeah, they're going to be over at Pop's nightclub, having a show tonight. I was like, fuck, man, cool. I was like, are you going to go to it? And he's like, nah, man, no. He's like, I'm not going. He goes, but I know that you're a wrestler and everything like that. So I know Corporal Robinson if you want me to hook you up with him. So we met over at the venue and we ended up meeting up and everything. And, I ended up working with him. I ended up working that night, and Raven was on the card. And I was just like, for the longest time, I was just like total, nervous, oh, fucking Raven's here. Raven was like one of my fucking idols back then, and he was like my Enigma, so I was like,
yeah.
Oh. And so the night goes on and I had my match and everything like that. I was first match, got my ass beat, literally a fucking 13-second match. And that's literally all it was. The best 13 seconds of my life in wrestling. It was the easiest 13 seconds too. Cause I ended up getting to wrestle, Tracy Smothers, who was a legend at the time. He just passed away not too long ago. God rest his soul, Tracy Smothers. Appreciate you, my brother. But so I'm sitting back, just chilling the rest of the show, and I'm just walking around talking to people, meeting all the, all these guys, and Sabu was there. With a bunch of other big indie names were all there. ICP was there. They were out walking around and stuff like that. And I wasn't nervous about meeting ICP. I don't know why. I was never nervous about, meeting them guys, I wasn't nervous. I wasn't nervous about meeting anybody at all except for Raven. So like I'm sitting here walking around the backstage area, just talking to people, getting to know people, trying to get my name out, trying to see if people can help me out. And I'm out back, and my back is faced towards like a bus type thing. And I turned around, and Raven is standing right behind me.
Oh.
Like directly behind me. And I'm sitting there talking to a guy, and he goes like this, like, and just points to me, you know, like, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't understand what you're doing. Like, and he's like, turn around. Somebody wants to talk to you. And Raven was behind me. I turned around and I was like, oh, hey, I'm Jaysin. Nice to meet you. Da da da. And he's like, you know, he's told me his name and everything. And he goes, do you want to see a magic trick? And I was just like, okay. Like, I'm like, his first two words out of his mouth besides his name was, you know, you want to see a magic trick? And I was just like, and that literally, it brought my nervousness down from like fangirl status to like, what the fuck is going on type status. And I was like, and it was a stupid little ball trick where he had the little foam ball in his hand and he was passing it. And he gets done with it and he goes, and I'm standing there this whole time and I'm like, what the hell are you doing? Like the most awkward look on my face. And I'm just like, what the fuck is this tard doing? And he gets done with the trick and he goes, that was an amazing trick, wasn't it? And I go,
looking for the right answer here.
I was like, to be honest, I go, it was pretty cool, but I've seen it 100,000 million times. You know, my grandpa used to do it to me and everything like that. You know, here are the quarter behind the ear trick type thing. You know, like I was like, yeah, I've seen it. He goes, and then he goes, so you're telling me I'm a failure? And I'm just like, no, you did great job. Good job, buddy. Good job.
And he's just like, saying you're a failure. I'm just saying stick to wrestling.
Yeah. And that was literally the conversation that we had. Like, and we went on our separate ways and never talked again that whole night. And I was just like, that was me meeting Raven. It was fucking great. Like, I didn't have to talk to him again after that. I was pretty set. It was fun as fuck.
That's cool.
What type of how has COVID been on the whole festival sideshow?
It's honestly been the worst thing ever that any performer, any live entertainer could imagine, because you know, with nothing going on, I know a few acts that have actually folded in because, you know, nothing going on.
Right.
You know, I guess I'm lucky that I didn't get to that point yet, because, you know, one day when this is all over and done with, my girlfriend and I were just going to load up and travel the country and do our act.
Right.
But it's just, last year I had a lot of stuff set up. Some of the stuff that was closer to when this all started, I was like, okay, not surprised. But then as more and more things kept getting canceled, it was just the worst thing ever, because, you know, I don't look at what I do as a hobby. I look at it as my trade. You know, it's what I love to do. You know, it's what I want to give to. It's what I want to share with the rest of the world. Right.
Is it your full time? Is it your full time gig?
Not yet. Okay. But that's the plan. Honestly, if COVID wouldn't have happened, that's what we were going to do. We were just going to hit the road and make it the full-time thing. Although the one good thing that came out of it, that not getting to leave right away, a couple months after the lockdown and quarantine started, my girlfriend was diagnosed with aggressive B-cell lymphoma and had to start chemotherapy right away. Right. So if we would have been out on the road while that was happening, we might not have ever known. It might not have caught it in time or anything.
Right.
So,
that's a good plus. And it helps you. I guess you could say it's kind of helped you, develop a better plan, a new plan, and kind of a better strategy of how to go out and attack what you want.
That it did, because I mean, I'm known locally pretty well, but honestly, I don't know why. I mean, any artist will tell you that they're their worst critic, and it's just when I'm meeting all the fans afterwards and they're telling me, "Oh, this was so great, you did so good," and in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking to myself, I could have done so much better, could have done these things so much differently. So like that was something that I really focused on during the pandemic, rewriting the show, adding stuff to it, so I can actually present something that I feel I can be proud of.
Right.
And
do you have like a whole stage gimmick, or like costume or anything like that? Like, everybody has their thing. Enigma, he's puzzle, blue horns, stuff like that. Do you have anything that kind of like sets you off from like everybody else?
I did, but I've really been trying to move away from it, because what I've been starting to notice is that little gimmick that every performer has. Well, it sets you apart from everyone else. It also makes you the same.
Right.
Just because everyone has a gimmick. And I used to have a gimmick. I painted my face. I had this backstory that was kind of dark, but made sense with what I was doing. And, I've been trying to move away from all that, because, and no disrespect to all of the other performers and entertainers out there who do attach themselves to a gimmick, but at the end of the day, we're all just normal people with the same goal, and I kind of want to just present myself as that and have that be what makes me different.
Right. Just be your average everyday Joe.
Basically, because
hey man, it makes sense to me. Like if everybody, you got one guy over here that's all painted up, and then you got one guy over here that's all tattooed up and wild looking's got horns and piercings and everything, and then you got just average Joe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's already a Dan Sperry, there's already an Aussie Blood, there's already a Hell's a Poppin', so I want to try and be something different.
Ain't no shame in trying to be different. Yep. Especially in an area where everybody is different. Everybody has their own style and look. They have their own flow and how they do things, but you're all doing the same thing. So like it's crazy how similar a lot of things are with each other. Like I talk to my friends who are musicians and stuff like that. I told you a story about my buddies that are in hip hop. It's crazy how the parallels, how you can find things that run parallel, like between say that world in pro wrestling, and then say the Sideshow world in pro wrestling, especially in there's very big parallels in pro wrestling and sideshows because they spawned out of the same thing. They spawned out of the circus culture.
Yeah.
The culture of the circus. You know, back in the old days of wrestling, they talked carny. You know, so like when people that weren't smart to the business, you were around, they could start talking, and people not know the shtick, essentially. So all of these parallels, the more people that I talk to that I find interesting and whatnot, like to find those little parallels in two different worlds, like pro wrestling and the sideshow world is two totally different things, but they're still so similar because you got your sideshow guys. You got one guy that might paint his face up, and you might be the other guy that's all tattooed up, but you're all essentially doing the same thing and trying to get yourselves over. Same thing as a wrestler. You have this guy over here who's got this style, and then this guy over here that's looking like this, and then you got me, but we're all still trying to get over. You know, we're trying to get the crowd to be entertained by us so we can go further.
Yeah.
Very similar story and pathways on those types of things, and it's crazy to me.
Well, you know, like we said earlier, it all goes back to that whole just wanting to entertain.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I do. Like I've ran through many things, like many things, and you know, pro wrestling is always something that I loved. And I've told people I'd probably do it again if it was right. If the story came, if somebody called me and they're like, "Hey, I got a story for you. Let's run the story." I'd probably come back. I'd have to lose a bunch of weight and, you know, get in better shape and stuff like that. But, you know, maybe go to the gym, you know, practice, you know, work out a couple of times, because it's been probably 8-9 years since I wrestled. So, but if it was right, I'd probably come back. But it would have to be the right time, the right story, the right people in the mix and everything like that to make it something special. But I've ran through many different things that I've liked. Like I always like racing. So I did dirt track racing for a season. And then I was just like, I don't really like it. It's not that exciting to me anymore. Like I did a season. I was like, okay, I'm cool with it. I'm done. Sucked ass. Never won a race, but it was fun. But I was just like, okay, you know,
that's what it's all about.
It's not exciting enough to me. And then I went to wrestling and everything like that, and then I just went to traveling around and, you know, hiking and doing all kinds of different stuff. And now I sit in front of a camera talking into a microphone to all other kinds of people that I find interesting and people that are actually trying to go out and do stuff. And here I am doing my thing, but I generally love trying to talk to people and push people out there to do better, to be better, to go out and fight for the dreams and goals that they want in their life. Because, you know, let's face facts. Most people, just like we talked about earlier, most people just sit around and talk shit all the time. And most people nowadays, they want the shit to come to them, and they don't realize that you've got to go out and hustle for your own shit. And you got to put the work in. If you don't put the work in, it's not going to come to you. What is some of your goals? Have you started lining anything up in 2021 or anything like that, or have you?
Well, one thing I'm working on that has never been my strong point is marketing. Like, I need to make a website. I need to start getting more videos to post up so that I can actually present to other fairs and festivals and stuff, because everyone who's ever seen me, you know, they love it. They rant and rave. I started doing a local Renaissance fair around here. This year is going to be my third year at it. But like, every year I progress a little bit, and now it's at the point that I'm actually going to be the headliner of the fair. So with that and a few other things I got set up this year, I'm just going to be working more on promotion than anything else.
Yeah,
to get it out there.
Do you have like a YouTube channel or anything like that?
I don't. Yeah, like I mentioned near the beginning, I'm not very good with social media. Like I feel like I could be using it for so much more for promotion and everything, but I just don't.
Yeah. Trust me, man. I feel the same. I feel the same way, man. For real, I could be so much better. I could be so much better at social media, but like there's days where I'm just like, man, like I just don't want to mess around with that, and I'm on like 20 different social medias. Like I got the podcast, I got Facebook, I got Snapchat, I got Instagram, I got Twitter, I got YouTube, I got Odyssey. Like I got all of these different platforms. Like I got Minds, I got BitChute. Like I can't keep up with all of them. Like there's times that I feel like I need to get like somebody here to just be like, okay, yeah, post that. Okay, no, don't post that one. Okay, we'll post this one. Yeah. It's almost to the point where like you overstretch yourself and you can't. You just get burnt out on it. Like my go-to is Facebook, even though it's like Facebook's essentially a dead platform and it's just a bunch of old people on there screaming and hollering at each other. I'm one of them.
I come for the memes.
Yeah. So like, but I mean, hell, it's where I've told people, the past couple people I've talked to, like most of my social medias are like shadow banned and blocked and stuff like that because of the stuff that I talk about. So like me putting forth the whole effort to push my social media when I know it's not going to grow, like it almost takes it out of you. Like why do I want to put so much effort into this and spend all day on these platforms trying to get my name out more when I know that it's just going to be the platform itself is giving me the runaround.
Well, I live by this, that the best advertisement ever is word of mouth.
Yeah.
Which, and I'm pretty sure it's that reason that keeps me away from using social media to its fullest, because in my mind, it's like, yeah, sure, you can go look at these pictures of me on Facebook or Instagram and see what I do. Or you could just hire me for your festival and I can show you.
Right. Yeah. But in the age of technology, even if we don't like it, we kind of have to focus on. Even though I don't like it, like I told you earlier before we started, like if I didn't do all this podcast and stuff like that, like I probably wouldn't even have a cell phone, like because it just doesn't interest me to have a cell phone most days. Like I literally went out and bought a new cell phone today, I told you, and like it's been probably 3.5 years since I bought a cell phone, and I don't buy expensive cell phones. I buy cheap ass phones. Like the most expensive phone I ever bought was $150. Like I refuse to spend money on stuff that I just break.
I hear you on that one. It's like,
so like I wouldn't even have it if it wouldn't be for me doing the podcast and stuff like that. Like I probably wouldn't even have social media. Like I would probably just get off of it because it's just one of those things. But hell, you got to kind of have
necessary evil.
Yeah, it's definitely a necessary evil to have. I think if you had like, I know Instagram's pretty popping.
Yeah.
With people, and then I think I don't see too many. I haven't went over to the freak show side, the Sideshow freak show side of YouTube in a very, very long time. I don't know who's still doing stuff over there and whatnot, but you never know, man. I mean, you could post a couple little things and shit could go viral. You never know how things are going to be these days.
Well, I got a couple things going on later on this month. Some photos and some video for some fire breathing. Because my younger sister's getting married, and I guess you could say it's my wedding gift to her and her husband. I'm going to be doing some fire breathing at the reception. Yeah. And I have a couple friends down there that have been wanting to shoot and take video of me doing fire for a while. So promo shots, video, I'll take it.
That's yeah. You put together a little package and mail that shit off to anybody and everybody.
All right. Like the one thing that I like really want to do, but at the same time I don't. There's this new thing I've been working on that I'm premiering at the Lakewood Renaissance Fair this year. That it's this whole thing choreographed, and then at the end, I'm just going to do something that I've only seen not in the same way. Like I've seen a half man do this, but I've never seen a full-bodied man do it. Mm-hmm. And I think if I put it on video and send it out, I know it'd be good now, but at the same time, I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Right.
So it's tough though when you know you have like all these ideas in your head and you just can't. You gotta wait.
Yeah, it's almost. I understand it. You know, like if you put it out there now, somebody take it, da 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 da, and then then the appeal of it when people see it firsthand. You know, so like it's almost really an old school type of mentality is what kind of vibe that I'm getting, which is because like old school mentality, like even in pro wrestling, like, you know, don't waste everything, you know, don't blow your load on the first show.
Right.
You know, like, you know, let everything build up to it. You know, that way your show and your set just keeps getting better and better and better and better. You know, if you go out your first match into a territory and you've pulled out every single bag in your trick or every trick in your bag, you know, by night 2, 3, 4, you've already blown the load. So you have nothing less. Essentially, you have nothing else to give. Mm-hmm. You know, and so I get it, man. I get it.
Yeah, that's Ward Hall, one of the greatest carnival barkers of all time. He actually has this like instructional videos on YouTube about building the tip, and that's what it all comes down to. You know, you just got to build it up. Don't give it all away up front.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, that's kind of the way I've kind of built myself over the last few years of like, you know, I just want to keep, when I feel like I'm getting stale in something, you know, like, my podcast was video for a long time, and I felt like it was getting stale and boring. It was getting boring to me. It might not have been boring to everybody else, but it was boring to me. So I was just like, I'm just going to go straight audio, man. Like, it's so much easier. I can get a lot more done instead of, you know, I can edit two podcasts in a week compared, if I really wanted to, if I had more time, I could, compared to one video with podcast and audio and everything like that. Like that. And I just didn't like the look of it. It just felt stale to me. And, you know, so I wanted to reinvent myself, and the reinventing myself is doing what I'm doing now so I can lead it back into proper video later down the road, which hopefully if I get this new place that I'm looking at, I'm going to have like a full on studio, you know, audio, video production, you know, sound stage type thing. There's going to be like a recording booth where people, like, if I have friends that are musicians that come in, they can come in and record music, tracks and stuff like that. People who do voiceovers can come in and do voiceover tracks and stuff like that.
A whole studio, nice.
And have a whole stage and studio where people can come and perform and do things. If they come in and say if I had the studio, instead of you sitting here on a computer across the screen from me, you would be in studio with me, and you could pull an act, you could do an act, you could do a trick, record it there, have it live there and stuff like that. So it's a different feel. It's almost to the point of where, like, I'm putting on a show, like an actual TV show while I'm recording the podcast.
That's a good idea. You should go with that.
Yeah. And that's my goal that I'm working towards. So, like, I always hear people are like, man, you need to go back to video. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I'm just like, guys, no, like, you got to give it time. Let me work to it. I go, trust me. The first time that I do video, when I do video, when I come back to full on video, it's going to, like, I want it to blow people's minds when I do it. So the wait is going to be worth it, because by the time that I get there and all the hype that I'm giving it, because every show, every episode that I do of this, I try to pepper a little bit of what I want to do and the ideas and stuff that I have for it. I pepper it through my shows. That way people can see it and hear it. And then they're like, oh man, that sounds really badass. That's going to be really cool. And now all I have to do is go out and successfully do it, hope it's up to the standard that I've hyped it.
Nice. Yeah. Hey, you know what? All starts with a dream.
That's life in general, man. Everything starts with a dream.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully one day, like, my ultimate goal is to just travel the world doing this, presenting it to everyone. I would like to work with a few musicians, maybe do some music videos along the way. I don't like the whole 9-to-5 lifestyle. This is what I want to do, and I feel like I affect the world in a much more positive way with my Sideshow performance than I do waking up every morning to go to a job that I don't want to be at to begin with.
Right. Yeah, man. I mean, I work in the restaurant business right now, and I love the restaurant business. I love that type of work, but, like, there is that yearning that I have of doing something more. Like, I would love to be able to, do the podcast full time, but it's just not sustainable for me enough for me to do that full time. There's a bunch of different things that I'd love to do full time. I like doing my reselling. I got a website, JaysinStatic.com, where I sell all types of antiques and collectibles and pop culture stuff and whatnot. Pins and shirts and comic books and toys and movie posters. I don't know if you can see those movie posters that I have back there, on my wall. Frankenstein, Wolfman.
Yeah, I see. Nice.
Stuff like that. Like, I love stuff like that. So, like, I love selling that type of stuff. So I want that. I also want to do that, but I also want to do the podcast and production, and it's all about, setting small goals for yourself, and eventually you'll get there as long as you keep chipping away at it. Set them small goals and work to those small goals, and eventually those small goals is going to lead to a big goal.
Yeah. It's like, that's like with, writing a show. Well, the show for me, it set small goals for myself along the way and just build on it.
What goes into the process of writing a show for a Sideshow?
Well, a good way to do it, and the way that I was taught back when I was on the traveling circuit was tell a story, try and work it up and build upon that story. And so originally I didn't really have a story. The first year I performed at Lakewood Renaissance Fair, I just basically went out. I said, this is what I'm going to do. This is me doing it. Yay, everyone clap. And
right.
There was no story, didn't really build the tip, but they still loved it because of just what I was doing. So then the second year I tried to make it into this educational thing where I just literally spouted off half-truths and, well, more or less bullshit
right.
to where these tricks originated from. But it told a story and it went better, and people liked it more. So, but now what I've been doing, and since I was given the extra time with last year, is like I really got down and told a story of like my whole history of, how long I've been doing it, where it started, things that have happened to me along the way. And it's just the hardest part about it is making it flow when you're writing the story. Yeah. So
it's the same thing within wrestling. Like to tell that story in wrestling, your proverbial good guy versus bad guy, to make sure that story flows through the whole thing. It's not as easy as people think it would be. I could imagine it'd be a lot more difficult to tell a story while you're, blowing fire out of your face and sticking stuff into your head, and like I can imagine it being a lot more difficult than what I was doing essentially.
Yeah. Well, I don't know because I've never done professional wrestling, but it can be hard. Luckily, I've had connections to some big names in the business, some people who are more well established. That have helped me, given me tips on how to write the story and make it flow.
There's actually a company. I want to say it's down in. I think they're located in Vegas. It's a wrestling company called Freak Show Wrestling, and it's run by a guy named Sin Bode. And Sin Bode, he does Sideshow stuff, or did at one time, and he was in WWE and everything like that, and it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool company. I think you'd probably be interested in it. You'd have to check it out.
I might have to. What wasn't there like a wrestling promotion more on the darker side that Doug Bradley was involved with too?
I don't know.
What was the name of that? I'm pretty sure there was, because I remember seeing a video online from the band Only Flesh, who is like this real hardcore Sideshow stuff. They're the guy who runs it, Ravina Lower. He does crazy hook suspensions. He helps people suspend. But the one thing he did, and this was the video I saw with the Doug Bradley wrestling promotion, he actually got nailed to a cross. He gets nails through his hands and feet, and they raise him up. Yeah, I mean, this guy's hardcore, but he's definitely acted as an inspiration to me over the years. Like when I first saw one of his videos back in the days of MySpace of some of the suspensions he was doing, I was like, maybe I need to ramp it up a little bit more.
Yeah. There's always somebody out there that makes you like, oh man, I want to do that. Like, there's always that one person.
Well, and that's something that's I've learned a lesson from that over the years. Everybody's trying to be the best, and that can set you up for failure quicker than you think, because there's always, no matter what you do, there's always going to be someone out in the world who's better than you. And so rather than trying to be better than them, just try to be better than yourself is what it comes down to. Like, which is why I always try to put new spins on the old classics with tricks. And that's another reason why I don't like putting videos of the stuff online with doing the new spins. Cause when I started doing the blockhead with the torch, I put a few pictures on my Instagram. A few weeks later, I saw another Sideshow artist who's friends with me on there doing the same thing. And I was like, oh, well, thanks for giving me credit.
Right.
Because they definitely weren't.
Is the Sideshow business pretty cutthroat?
Yeah. It is. Like I have friends in it that I stick to, but it's few and far between. And you'll hear all sorts of stories of people just getting dicked over by their partners. Like I was saying earlier with the group I used to be in, before I was part of the group, I was actually ready to give up fire breathing because I had been doing it for years, and I had put this post and I was like, I don't even know why I'm doing this anymore. And I was friends with the guy who started the group, and he was like, don't ever count yourself out. You have so many talents and you can do them. And we did this show once where I ended up upstaging everyone, and not on purpose, but you know, when you play with fire and straitjacket escapes and everything, it's a tough act to follow. And so this band that we performed with, they called him up and they were like, hey, we would really like it if we could just get the guy with fire back to do another show with us. And I overheard the conversation between the guy who ran it and his girlfriend, who didn't really help the situation. And a little bit later, he takes me aside and he was like, hey man, you know, just so you know, that fire stuff you do, it's really not that impressive. So it just goes to show you that, you know, basically in the industry, if you're upstaging someone and they feel you're a threat, they'll try to take you out, even if they've supported you in the past. Oh
yeah, man, I know all about that. That's same thing as the wrestling business, man. If you do one thing good, or you get onto a show that they didn't get onto, oof, the vitriol that you get from people. Like I had a same thing on that JCW show. Like I said, match was like 13 seconds long, nothing match, and there was a bunch of other local guys there, and I get done with the match. I get done with the spot that I did, and the two referees walked me to the back to get me out of the way of all the action that was still going on in the ring. So they walked me to the backstage, and as I go through the curtain, Violent J's on one side of the curtain, Shaggy Two Dopes on the other side of the curtain. And they both go, good job, kid. You did great. Nice. That's all I had to do. It was all I had to do is get over what, you know, the two other guys, Tracy and Too Tough Tony, was doing. All I had to do is not screw up. And I didn't screw up to the promoters of the show. Yeah. Tracy said I did good. Too Tough Tony said I did good. Violent J and Shaggy said I did good. A couple of the other, you know, bigger name indie guys that was there watching it said that I did a good job for my third match ever. But the local guys that were on the show with me they had an issue with what I did, something that I did, which is I did exactly what I was told to do. Tracy picked me up and he slammed me down on the ground, put the boots to me, and then by then, Too Tough Tony ran in, attacked him, and as Too Tough Tony came in to attack Tracy Smothers, Tracy kicked me towards the apron, because I was on the ground. So he kicked me towards the apron, which essentially rolled me towards the apron, and the referees essentially grabbed me and walked me off. The other local guys that were there yelled at me for getting up and walking off. And I was like, and I told the guys, I go, look, man, I go, you can have a problem with what I did all fucking day long. I go, but that's what Tracy told me to do. I go, if you have a problem with what I did, I go, we can go find Tracy right now and you can talk to Tracy about it. Tracy's got, at that point in time, he's probably had 25, 30 years in the business. You guys have 10. I go, I'm going to listen to this guy. Okay. But that caused a big beef that I was not aware of, because I'm new. I didn't really know who the guys were. They were local guys, but I didn't know who they were because they were with other companies that were still local. And I'd only been going to one company. I hadn't been going to all of them. So I didn't know who these guys were. Boy, did that word travel fast. I get off of the show. I get back with the show. I got a buddy hitting me up. Oh, dude, I heard that you did some fucked up shit at the, the JCW show tonight. I'm like, what are you talking about? Fucked up. Oh yeah. You totally fucked up. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Literally within an hour of me in that show, I had people calling me, telling me, and I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? So yeah, the dudes were literally telling everybody in the territory, this dude's a fucking clown. Don't book him and shit like that. After one incident, I'm just like, man, I don't even know you, cat. Why are you fucking with me for?
Wow.
I think any business that's in the entertainment business is a pretty cutthroat business.
Yeah, because everyone thinks that they're the best, and then when someone comes around that gets more attention than them, it's immediately a threat. And it'd just be better if we could just help lift each other up, because we all got the same goals in the end. Don't put someone down just because they're doing it.
Yeah, that just means you got to get better, man.
Yeah.
If you don't
like I mentioned earlier, while he was running the group, he didn't really do much about it. He just was just like, all right, guys, now let's just think really hard about how this is going to happen, and it's going to happen. And we did get a little bit of moderate success, but again, there were just too many internal problems. We were never able to get to a show on time. Yeah. So there was one show that I wrote the script for. It was Steampunk World's Fair. We had an actual presentation and scripted show that I spent a few weeks actually just researching the resource material for it. It was based on Alice in Wonderland, the Mad Tea Party. And so I watched every version of Alice in Wonderland there is. I read the books, and I just really ingrained this in myself to write a good show. And then because of not being able to be on time, or instead of us getting our makeup on, everyone's out smoking a blunt. It's you have to have your priorities straight in it. Yeah. At one point he was like, you need to call them up and tell them that we're not going to be able to go on until later. And it's like, that's not how it works. So then after all that, we didn't even get to perform this show at all. And he just looks at me and goes, it happens. It's like, so
it almost seems like he didn't actually want to do it. He just thought it was fun.
Here is what his problem was. He ran an entertainment quote unquote company, but he himself did not want to be an entertainer. He just wanted to do makeup. He put himself into the wrong business, basically. He was a makeup artist, but he was trying to be a performer, even though he didn't want to be. So
that happens quite often, believe it or not. But hey, man, we're running up on our time right now, so I just want to say I appreciate you coming on, man.
Hey, I appreciate you having me.
There's something that I do at the end of every episode. Just kind of puts people on the spot a little bit, just to see, because they're all entertainers. They're all people that want to be entertaining, So I always ask for a little bit of motivation, inspiration to get people up off their asses to go do the dreams and things that they have, that they want, because everybody's got something that they want to do, whether it be go out and take up hiking, or become a professional wrestler, or become a sideshow. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of kick in the pants to get people up and out of their chairs to go do that. So I'm going to leave you a minute or so to just riff and just give some people some inspiration.
I know all about that. So all I have to say about that is, in the entertainment industry, one thing that becomes very clear is that the people who you think support you don't support you. People will talk about you behind your back, put you down, try and stand in your way. But at the end of it all, the only person that stands in your way of achieving everything you want is yourself. Because if all these people are talking and you're listening to what they have to say and you're letting it bring you down, in the end, that's your choice. I mean, you got to use that as motivation. It's like, all right, all these people don't believe in me. I'm going to do it just to prove them wrong, because I know I can. You got to, it takes a lot of self-faith and believing in yourself to actually do it. And, speaking from experience, it's a lot more work than you think, but it's worth it in the end, but you're the one who has to stick to it. Ain't nobody else going to help you.
All the trials and tribulations that you'll go through is worth it in the end. You just got to get out and try it. And you guys, that's what I tell you guys, to just go out and fight for whatever you want in your life, no matter what it is, whether it's something simple or something, as wild and extravagant as, performing in a sideshow. You've got to put forth the effort in. You got to go out and try it, and you got to go out and fight for it. It's really all you can do in life is go out and fight for it. Life's a fight.
You can fail 50 times, but as long as you get that one success, it's all worth it.
Yep. Do you have any social media that you want to plug? Since you're want to get better in the marketing area.
Instagram, Pierce Werner _ in between Pierce and Werner. On Facebook, my personal page is Pierce Werner. My business page is Pierce Werner, aka Needles, because as a performer, that's the name I'm more commonly known as. And more to come in the future, but that's all we got for now.
More to come. All of that stuff will be in the description box and the show notes below. You guys go out and check this guy out. Help him chase his dream. This show and everything that I do is about people chasing dreams and goals that they have in life. And the only way that we are all going to succeed is to help push people that are trying to live independently from everything else that society tells us that we have to be and have to do. I want to go out and do my own thing. I want to be independent of myself. Everybody that I bring on the show, that's the one thing that everybody has in common. Everybody that I've talked to over the years has wanted to go out and live their life how they wanted to live it, on their terms and not on the terms that society deals us. But so guys, that's the only way that we can succeed is if you guys go out and follow our pages, check out our pages, and share it out if you're interested in it. But other than that, peace out, much love, take care, and until the next episode, peace out, bitches.
Peace out. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, you can stick around real quick.
All right.
Send me